This is a special time in general, and one thing that keeps coming up in this time of year is this concept of light and darkness. And therefore, I felt that there's a lot of beautiful Torah, and sometimes a story is able to get across a message that they can only really get in a story, and it's sometimes harder to get when someone is giving you a Torah. So I wanted to give over some good stories, and some stories that are called that I think of light, stories of light, and the concept and the honor of the theme of the day. First of all, we know that stories are so powerful. Stories can do things that go beyond anything else that we have access to. So there's a famous story of the Holy Baal Shem Tov that every Rosh Hashanah, before Rosh Hashanah, when it's the time of judgment, he would get some wood. He'd go to the forest. He would make a fire, and make a prayer. And by doing this special Kabbalistic ritual, he was able to sweeten whatever judgments were happening against the Jewish people in that time. Next generation, when the Holy Maggid of Mezrich was Rebbe, he came. He didn't know the prayer exactly, but he knew the place in the forest. He knew how to make the fire, and he was able to accomplish everything that the Baal Shem Tov did. And generations later, they forgot the place. The Holy Rishner says, I don't remember anymore the place in the forest. I don't remember how to make the fire. I don't remember the prayer. But I remember the story. And by telling the story, he was able to sweeten the judgments. So stories in our culture and our tradition are very powerful. And there's a few stories of Hanukkah. How do you choose a story? But just some that come to mind, and I think are very powerful for today. So there's an interesting story that I heard recently from my Rebbe, the Oster-Rebbe Rebbe of Yerushalayim, and it's a story that I was shocked to hear. And if you type in George Washington menorah, interesting things will come up, but I'll tell you the story. So there was a Jew in Poland, and he was didn't live the shtetl life that his parents lived, and he decided he wanted to go to America. And in the 1775, he head out to America. And his father told him, listen, I know that you're not going to live the Hasidic life that I lived, but one thing I'm begging you to take with you is a menorah. Take a menorah and when you go to America, you're going to go to a new place. You might lose everything that we have as a people, as a tradition, but do me one favor. And just no matter what happens, light this menorah. Light this Hanukkah menorah. And the boy agreed. And he left, and he went to America. And very soon after was the Revolutionary War. And he's in the middle of it all. And all of a sudden, 1777, in December 24th, 1777 was Hanukkah, and he went to his room, to his barracks, and he was in the war. He put the menorah in. He made the blessings, and he lit the candle. And all of a sudden, he looks up and he sees the general is standing in front of him. General George Washington, that is. And it's a true story. And he says, are you a Hebrew? And he says, yes, I am a Hebrew. And he says, do you know that your people are blessed? And the prophecies that were told that, that salvation comes from you. And he says, tell me, what are you doing here? What is this thing that you've lit in? What is this candelabrum? And one night in the middle of the Revolutionary War, and this Jew tells him, he said, listen, I come from a village in Poland, and my father gave me this menorah, and he told me to light it. And it represents a story of our people when we were in Greece, in Israel, and the Greek army came to invade us and to destroy our people. And we were at the end, and it felt like there was no hope. And yet, through a miraculous event, God saved the many, put the hands of the many in the hands of the few, the mighty and the weak, the wicked and the Torah scholars. And it was the story of light that we survived. And not only did we survive, but we were able to go back into the temple, and for the past 3,000, 2,000 years, we've been lighting these candles to commemorate that victory. And when General George Washington at the time heard this, he was completely amazed. And he felt that this was a divine calling, a divine sign that someone was telling him. And he got inspired, and he went back to the troops, and he was already, the Americans were losing at the time. But he re-inspired him, and he collected himself, and he re-inspired the troops, and they ended up winning the war. And as a tribute for a gratitude that this menorah gave, this Hanukkah story gave to George Washington, he bought a menorah for the Jews and wrote a letter, and it's a very famous story. And it's amazing, with what's happening today in America. There's a rise in anti-Semitism. Crazy things are happening, but we came here, and we're part of the founding culture of this nation, with the inspiration that Hanukkah gave to George Washington all those days ago. So it's a beautiful story. And I have another Hanukkah story. So, forgive me, I don't remember all the names perfectly, and I had a little window over here that said the story. But there was a Reb Schnitzler. He was in Bergen-Belsen, obviously in the war, and he was a rabbi, and he was in Bergen-Belsen. He was in the barracks, and it was December 1944, and the Jews obviously were weak and broken and tired and hungry and dying. And he got up and he said, guys, Hanukkah is coming. Hanukkah is coming, and we cannot give up. We cannot give up. We cannot give up as a people, and we can't give up on anything. And I promise you that Hashem will make a miracle, and as a sign of our freedom, Hashem will bring us a Hanukkah candles and a Hanukkah menorah, and we'll light the Hanukkah candles right here. And some Jews were nodding, some Jews were too broken to nod, and he went out, and his job in Bergen-Belsen was to bring the unfortunate, they would start to talk about it, the dead bodies, right? They would say, you're going to take a shower, you're going to get better. They would go into these gas chambers, as we all know, and they would die. And this Rav Schnitzler would take these dead bodies and put them on a wagon, and was very careful to take them from the gas chambers to where they would be buried. And he carried these bodies, and he would do it many times a day, unfortunately. And he knew that path inside and out. And and one time he was taking the wagon, and there was a bump. There was a bump in the road, and he had to watch the bodies and make sure everything was okay. But he had never seen a bump there in the floor like that, and he wanted to as if someone was hiding something under the ground, but he didn't want to cause a scene because there's obviously Nazi guards and maybe someone's hiding something, so he left and he went to do his job. Later that day, he went and he looked at that place and he opened up the earth, and he saw under the ground there's oil, there were wicks, and a holder, a container, like a Hanukkah set in the ground in Bergen-Belsen in the concentration camp. And his first reaction was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to take it and run to my barracks. This is the miracle. I promised my people in my barracks that we're gonna have this miracle of Hanukkah. I need so." But he said, "Listen, there's a Jew obviously who's hiding this, saving this here. I should leave it. And someone's waiting for it." He puts it back, and he goes back to his wagon, to his barracks, and he asks everybody in there, did you hide anything? Did you hide a menorah? Did you hide Chanukiah? Nobody knows what he's talking about. So it's the 21st of Kislev, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Every day he's checking. When an hour before Hanukkah, he goes to check. It's still there. He figures, look, whoever hid it here must not be needing it. Maybe it's a sign. I need to use it. So he takes all the things and he walks in. And as Hanukkah is starting, with these broken Jews, and he says, "Guys, I have a Hanukkah set for us." And he had wicks, and he had candle, and he had oil, and they put the oil, and they all together they made the blessings, Shechianu, Shasanisim, the whole thing, and they couldn't believe it. They were crying. They couldn't believe in that darkness, in that place, out in Bergen-Belsen, to be lighting the Hanukkah candles. It was, for them, it was the most special, obviously, moment that they could imagine at that moment, and they had enough for all 8 nights. That was December 1944. In April or May 1945, they were liberated from the camp, and each person went to their respective communities, and many of them went back to their homes or where they used to live, and this rabbi became a rabbi in a certain city, and he eventually took a trip to the States. And one of the famous rabbis who was in Bergen-Belsen, who survived the war, was the Satmar Rebbe. And the Satmar Rebbe, he often would meet with Holocaust survivors, and this man comes in, and they're talking about life before the war, life during the war, everything that they lost, and the Rebbe and this rabbi were just crying and telling stories and just having this cathartic moment. And at some point, the Rebbe, the Satmar Rebbe, picks up his head. He says, one of the big losses that I also feel, and it's all these other things, is that I feel so bad for the Jews in Bergen-Belsen also, that I had bribed a guard in the camp to secure oil, some wicks, and a candle holder, and a glass, to have a Hanukkah set for me in the concentration camp. And I was rescued from the camp on the 22nd of Kislev, 3 days before Hanukkah, So I never got to use this oil set. And all of a sudden, this rabbi says, Rabbi, Hashem has his plans. Like Hashem has his plans, because I'm telling you here, this is a true story. On my route, I found that set, and we used that. We used that set that you prepared for us, that you had no idea. You had no idea that you prepared that set. You thought it was for yourself. You prepared it for us, and we used it all the Hanukkah nights, and it gave us strength to survive until the end. So Hanukkah, it's a little light, this little bit of light in this dark time, and it gives us strength. So often the smallest things, and it sounds cliche sometimes. The small things, it's the small things that count. But it really is the smallest things that we do for each other, the smallest look that we can give each other, the smallest gesture we can give each other, that has the biggest impact. As Rav Shlomo says, I'm not your best friend because of all the things you do for me that I know about. I'm your best friend for all the things you do for me that I don't know about. It's those small things that we do for each other that we don't know about. Rav Shlomo says, I wish I could do something for Hashem that even Hashem doesn't know about. With some stories, time goes by quickly with stories. But maybe there's one more. Maybe there's one more I could share. There's a story of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. Everybody knows the Holy Master, the Baal Shem Tov. He's without the Baal Shem Tov, this book would not exist, and I surely wouldn't be here. The Holy Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Cedars, the founder of the old new way, as they say. He brought the way that Yiddishkeit was supposed to be, but it got dark. It got darkened with many years of exile. The Baal Shem Tov brought back with the light of Yiddishkeit. So anyway, there's so many stories. One story is the Holy Baal Shem Tov had a student, Chaim Rappaport. And Chaim, he was on a trip. He went somewhere. He went on a trip. So the Baal Shem Tov said, after his trip, he came back a week later. He said, "Tell me about your trip." I said, "Okay, Rabbi." He said, I went there. I met that person. No. Tell me every detail of your trip. He says, "Okay. Well, I rented this wagon, and I took this path, and I got to this place, and I slept at this inn, and then I went to this other city, and then he's like, and at that city, did you daven mincha somewhere?" He's like, "Yes, I daven mincha in this field because there was no minyan, and then I left." He's like, "Wait, but before you left, did you make a bracha or something over there?" He's like, "Actually, yes, Rabbi, I was very thirsty because I was traveling for a long time, and there was a running stream of water. So I had a cup. I drank some water, made a bracha, shakol, drank some water, and went on my way." The Baal Shem Tov said, "Do you know that from the moment of creation, from the moment God created the world, that water from that stream was waiting all these years for you to make the blessing on that water? And that the entire trip, that you think you had so many reasons, so many calculations, where you're going, why you were going, who you met with, you didn't even realize that the whole point of that trip was actually to uplift that stream of water and make a blessing in that place." It says about the Hanukkah candles that we sit in front of the candles, and you're not even allowed to use the light of the candles for anything. You can't use the light of the candles for anything other than staring at the light. That the light itself is so powerful. I haven't been married forever, but for a few years. And I feel like, when do things start going downhill? When you start looking at each other, what can I get from that person? What can I do from that person? But when you shift that mindset, whether it's your spouse or your children or your friends or anyone, even your clients, especially your clients, when you think about, what can I do for them? What can I do for you? How can I help you? The light of the Hanukkah candles, we're not supposed to pick up a book and use the light of the Hanukkah candles to read. We're supposed to literally just sit for half an hour at least, if not the whole night, just staring at the Hanukkah candles, just appreciating the light on its own. Not what it does for us, but just the light itself. There's a story of the Holy Alter Rebbe that I believe is Alter Rebbe, that a chassid came to him, and one of his students, one of his top disciples, who was a businessman and going through a lot of hard times. It should not be for us, lo aleinu v'lo aleichem, God forbid, but only showing good things for us. But he was going through really tough times, really tough. Health, wealth, and sickness, and just everything was bad, it was hard. And he was complaining for a long time to the Alter Rebbe about everything wrong in his life. And that's what you're supposed to do. You have something wrong, and that's what I do. I go to my Rebbe and say, Rebbe, this is a problem, that's a problem. And the Alter Rebbe is listening and listening to everything that he's saying. And then he says, brother, I love you so much. Do you know that for the past hour and a half, you have not been able to stop talking about what you need? Did you ever stop for 5 minutes to think about what you're needed for? In the light of the Hanukkah candles, we're not using that light. We're staring at that light. And we're appreciating it for what it is. And it's so important that as we're doing that, we also, there should be like a reflective light also, that we're looking at ourselves. I read something awesome one time from David Aaron. He said, imagine you have glasses. Okay, I know I didn't have glasses at the time, now I have glasses. Imagine you have glasses, and whatever you put on, whatever glasses you put on, that's how you see it. That's how you see things. So, okay, you can have prescriptive glasses, now everything is a 3.5 prescription, but imagine you have, biology glasses, okay? You put on these biology glasses, and now literally you see how the organisms and how everything is interacting with each other. Imagine you have chemistry glasses, okay? You put it on, you see on a molecular level how the molecules and the atoms and this and that. Whatever glasses you put on, that's how you see everything, right? You could put on legal glasses, and now everything you see, everyone you talk to is all legal, right? Like that's illegal, that's thing. So what happens when you put on the glasses of Hanukkah? What happens when you put on the glasses of Hanukkah? So he says, the glasses of Hanukkah are miracles. As soon as you put on the glasses of Hanukkah, you realize that everything is a miracle. Everything becomes a miracle. Today I had a meeting, and I do accounting. I have accounting for companies, corporate accounting, public accounting. And someone came to me today, and for some reason he thought that I was extremely successful, and he took me out to lunch to pick my brain at what marketing and sales strategies I did to be this successful. Between us, I promise, hopefully it should be really successful. But somehow this guy got it in his head. So I told him like very clearly and very straight, everything I have, just whatever marketing, SEO, social media, everything I have is from Hashem. Everything is a blessing. Everything is from Hashem. And maybe I was inspired a little bit by the Hanukkah candles. But that is literally how we have to see it. And that, because that is the truth. That as soon as we get out of this mentality and this reality, that we are in control. Hey Joey, good to see you, brother. As soon as we get out of this reality that it's all up to us, it's all in our hands, that's when we unlock the truth. That's when we unlock real blessing into our lives. I promise you, like, no matter what I could have done, let's say I have one client. I don't care how many meetings and marketing and sales and whatever branding you can come up with is not enough, in my opinion, to truly be worthy of having one client. And to be able to look honestly at your life and okay, your ego is, we all have our egos, and we all know that we hopefully put in hard work and it's hard. But at the end of the day, imagine a farmer, and we only have a couple minutes left here, but imagine a farmer. He has a seed, rakes the ground, puts it in, covers it, puts water, something sprouts, he prays, water's coming down, or he's watering it, and all of a sudden this huge tree with this whole thing. Imagine he puts a whole irrigation system and this amazing tree and fruit, blossom. And then he could think, look at what I did. Look at this amazing tree. Look at this amazing produce. Look at all these things that I've done. Like, you fool. Where did that seed come from? Did you make that seed? Did you create this crazy situation where this seed disintegrates and all of a sudden a tree comes out of it? Or like a human being from a husband and wife? Like, are you kidding me? Like, how could we have any ego to feel like we've done anything other than just appreciate and be so grateful and thankful for all the blessings that Hashem gives us? So I bless us. That we should have more opportunities to learn together at the right time. I bless us to strengthen ourselves with the light of Hanukkah, of the story of Hanukkah, no matter how dark it is, whether in the Revolutionary War or in the concentration camps or whatever darkness we have in our lives, the light of Hanukkah, we should be inspired and enlivened and enlightened from the light of Hanukkah. And we should recognize our own self-worth and the self-worth of each other, connect to each other just for themselves, not for ourselves, and to remember that all the blessings we have in our life is from Hashem. And in doing so, may Hashem may we create such big vessels for Hashem to fill our lives with all the blessings of good health, wealth, abundant wealth, family, children, all the blessings. Chag Sameach. Happy Hanukkah.